welcome to the Pull Clinic. I'm your host. I'm Dr. Favia Dubyk, and we're going to go through 12 or so of my favorite pull exercises, including my 2 top tricks to getting the one-arm pull-up. So first, I always like to start with discussing shoulder engagement. This will help you to not get your rotator cuff injured or tear and like take you out of the game for months. So, with your shoulders engaged, you create extra space between your ears and your arms. So, not engaged, engaged, not engaged, engaged. So you can kind of try that, going not engaged, engaged, so you can really feel what being engaged feels like. So when you jump on the wall, you're going to jump in an engaged position. When you jump on the hangboard, you're going to be engaged. Like pretty much I want engagement to be second nature. So I'm going to jump and I'm engaged. So whenever my hands come into contact with anything, I automatically go into that engaged area. And I had to learn that the hard way because I used to actually hangboard, like dead hang, what I thought was supposed to be like just a dead hang. So I did no shoulder engagement and I tore both rotator cuffs. So I like to start every clinic, no matter what I'm talking about, with shoulder engagement. However, it's very pertinent to this one. So if you're warming up and you don't want to start with pull-ups, or if you're still trying to progress up to pull-ups, you can use a ball or a chair for your feet. Put your hands on the bar, and then you can use your foot to pull you up. So the ball's harder because it's not stable, and you have to use some core and leg strength to keep it beneath you. So if that's too hard, I would suggest using a chair. But this is good so you can get used to the power motion without having to strain your shoulders and elbows. We're all about trying to stay healthy so you can keep on training. So let's discuss pull-up form. So in a true strict pull-up, there's no kipping and your head goes above the bar. Your chin goes above the bar. Your arms are about shoulder width apart. You get engaged, and then you pull up. So try not to use your core, like your legs kicking in front of you or kipping to get up, and you want to get your chin above the bar. So that is your basic pull-up form. And once you have that, there's a ton of fun exercises that you can do. So, from the pull-up where your arms are about shoulder width, the next one you can do is the wide pull-up. So this device here is nice because they kind of already have an area for the wide pull-up here. But if, let's say you don't have some type of designated marker like I do, and you just have a plain flat bar, how wide do your arms go? So I like to think of it as a Y position. We've pretty much all done the dance like YMCA. So just do the first one, Y. And that is approximately how far your arms should be apart. A more technical way is 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths apart. So like this would be 1 shoulder width, and then like say if that's 2, then you can go like 1.5. And that, so you don't really want to be doing these yet. It's just your shoulder and a little bit further out, making that Y. So it goes similarly to the regular pull-up. Start engaged, and then pull up. Chin above the bar. So with your regular pull-ups and the wide pull-up, you can also add weight. Now when I'm adding weight, you have 2 options. You can put on a harness and then with some type of cloth, have a weight and attach that to your harness. The second option is actually having a weight vest. I do not suggest having, 100 pounds on your harness. It really pulls down on your hips and can start to separate some muscles in your abdomen. Can cause you to tear. So I actually like to distribute my weight. So I have a 45-pound weight vest that I put up for here, and then I put the remainder of the weight on my harness. And then sometimes I even add on ankle weights. So that way the weight is kind of everywhere and I don't hurt one part of my body. And when I do weighted pull-ups or weighted wide pull-ups, I just generally do about 3 reps at a time. So another one that we probably, did as a kid when we were in PE class are chin-ups. And those are kind of, a little bit of a lost pull in climbing. But I actually do chin-ups as well. So for a pull-up, your fingers are facing away from you, generally kind of the way we climb. And a chin-up, they're facing towards you. So again, arms shoulder width apart. Come down. Chin above the bar, shoulders always engaged, and that's your chin up. Now we have the regular pull up, the wide pull up, and the chin up. With those 3, you can get a lot done. One of my favorite things is a superset, which means you do multiple exercises with no rest in between. So sometimes I'll do weighted or non-weighted wide pull-ups, 3, and then switch to chin-ups and do 3 of those. Like that. And then you can actually get really fancy. And so that's how I was switching between the 2 sets. Because if I'm doing weight, I actually want to use my feet to switch my hand grips. But if I'm doing no weight, I sometimes don't even put my feet on the ground at all and just have a little bit of fun with it. You'll see that my device is a little shaky, not very sturdy. So I would say check your hardware to make sure it won't flip over. So to do all 3, you can do pull up and then switch to a chin up, and then switch to a wide pull up. And then doing all 3 of those counts as 1. So that's very good. And it also kind of requires a little bit of one arm strength because you are going to have to be able to kind of hold on with this arm while you switch to go out to here. But if you move very fast, it's not too bad. So those are the basics of pull-ups. And they even get you a little out of breath. So now we're going to go on to some more advanced techniques. So one is called the typewriter. And some of y'all might be too young to remember exactly what a typewriter is, but back when I was a kid, I had a typewriter. You're gonna get in the wide grip, and you're gonna do your pull-up. But then, you're gonna go over to one side, over to the other side. You want to try to keep your chin above the bar while you're doing it. Sorry, sometimes mine tilts, so I have to make sure I keep my balance right. But ideally, chin above the bar as you go from one side to the other. And then a Frenchie is when it's kind of a combination of block-offs and pull-ups at different angles. And I don't know if there's one set way to do it, but the general principle is the same. So that is one way to progress up. Pretty much you get at different angles, like 30, 45, 90. I guess it's the opposite of that. Sorry, math is not my strong suit. We get the idea. You go at different angles and you hold it for a couple of seconds and then you move on to the next. And you do the same thing going down as well, and that's one Frenchie. I've also done it where I hold it here, then I pull up, and then I hold it here, pull up, hold it here, pull up, and do the same thing as you come down. So there's two different variations. One, you have to more hold the lock off, and the other one you have to do a pull-up in between. But either way that you do it, it is a good workout. So just to summarize, for the Frenchies, you're working at different angles, usually about 3 different angles, and you either want to hold it for 3 seconds or so at each angle, so that works your lock off, or you can try to do a pull-up in between each angle, whichever one you like. They're probably equally hard. So those are 2 typewriter and Frenchies, 2 advanced pull techniques. Now, we see people on Instagram and TV doing muscle-ups, but how do you work up to a muscle-up? This is one of my favorite exercises, the power pull. So pretty much you get into your shoulder engaged position, and then without using your legs, you're gonna, sorry, I got a cat, my legs don't want to kick it. You're gonna pull up as fast and hard as you can to try to bring your belly button to the bar. That's your goal. So pretty much all you have to do is do 3 or 4 power pulls in a row. And eventually one day you'll get so good at it, you'll just find yourself on the bar. And that's how I did my first muscle up. I was doing power pulls, and one day I was just on top. I will demonstrate again. So I'm hanging here, and then pull up. So use all your power to go, whew. I find this one to be a little hard on the triceps, so make sure that your triceps and elbows are feeling pretty good. And then once you get good at one power pull, sometimes I work up to doing 3 in a row without stopping to like regain momentum. So sometimes I just do 1 power pull, then hang, then another power pull, then hang. And then other times it's power pull, power pull, power pull, which I find to be very tiring, probably even more tiring. And then once you get good at that, you can just try the muscle up. I'm going to do that at a different gym because during the muscle up here, I've actually hit my foot on this and I couldn't walk for a couple days. I was non-weight bearing. And a second tip I have for muscle ups is to be very aware of your environment. So make sure that the above the bar is very clear. And you're probably saying like, Favia, that's obvious. But one day at the gym, I was just in the zone doing muscle ups and power pulls, and I accidentally grabbed the wrong bar. So we had like 3 bars in diagonal, and I grabbed the lower bar instead of the furthest out bar. And when I did the power pull or the muscle up, I went boom, and I broke my nose on the bar, and you can still see the scar. This is about 2 months ago. So muscle ups are dangerous, not even just on your muscles and they're hard on your body, but if there's metal around your legs or metal around your head, just be careful because you can break and sprain things. Now, let's talk about the one arm pull-up. I would just like to say that one arm pull-ups are wonderful and they're fun, but they do not, suddenly make you skip mini grades in climbing. But it is a fun trick to do at parties. Back when I was like in third year of med school, I had decided that I wanted to do one arm pull-ups, and I wasn't on a training regimen and I didn't have a coach. So there were 2 exercises that I did to get the one arm pull-up. Uneven pull-ups and lock-offs. Those are the only 2 things I did. I did them 3 weeks for 4 weeks, 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And then by the end of that, I had achieved the one arm pull-up. I see a lot of people on TV using, or like in the gym, using towels as their one arm grip, or using like their own arm. And I don't really favor training that, because when in climbing do we have something like this that we're doing? Like, unless you're on a really narrow tufa, probably never. So I like to make sure that my training will also help my climbing. So while you're climbing, you do find yourself like this, like trying to pull up like an uneven, holds. So when I started with the holds being very close. So like one hold here and then one hold here, and then just doing the pull-ups. And then slowly I lowered my other hand until it got down to here, and then I only needed a little bit. And then I was like, oh, look, I think I can do it. So here, I'll have one hand here, and then, see, it helps you. I also like to think it helps your mantling, particularly if you're at, font or somewhere and you're trying to mantle those top outs. So I recommend doing that on both sides and starting with big holds close together, and then bring them farther apart, and you can make the holds smaller and smaller as you go too. So that way you can use less and less of your fingers. So at first you might be using a whole jug, kind of like this, but then eventually you might just need 1 inch on your finger. Sorry, there's a bunch of mosquitoes out tonight. So the second exercise I mentioned was lock-offs. So for this, again, it's kind of a similar principle. If you can't yet do a lock-off with one arm, I would use your other hand on a hold or the wall or something to give you a little extra oomph so you can hold the lock-off. So I try to hold my lock-offs for 5 seconds each arm. And you have to be extra careful to make sure your shoulders engaged, because now all your weight is just on one arm, and you're really at high risk to tear your very tiny rotator cuffs that are just doing a lot of work for us climbers. So here's the lock off at 90 degrees. And then you can switch. And if you want it to get real strong, real advanced, one of the toughest things I've done is you hold the lock off for 5 seconds with one arm without having your feet touch anything. You shift to the other arm and hold that for 5 seconds. And then you shift to the other. Still no feet touching the ground. And you go back and forth, 5 seconds. And you do that for an entire minute. But I would suggest work your way up to the minute. So try like 20 seconds, 40 seconds, then a minute. And then your one arm lock off will be great. So between the one arm lock off and the uneven pull-ups, you will be able to do one arm pull-ups with cats. Let's see. Let's see if Lulu will cooperate. She kind of did. This is one of my 5 cats, Lulu. Okay, well, I think that's it for this apparatus. Now I'm going to move to the hangboard. Okay, so.
Hold on, start. Now.
Edge pulls. This is one of my newer exercises and I absolutely love it. It works my fingers like no other hangboard exercise I've ever done pretty much. So on this hangboard I have here, I have different edges. And so same principles go when you're using a bar as you're on a hangboard. Come up here, engage your shoulders, pull up. So that was not too bad because it's a big hold. But this is like a slopey 20 millimeter edge. So doing pull-ups on here is much harder. So when you've mastered all the weighted pull-ups on the bar, I suggest coming in to use a hangboard and using safe edges that you are experienced with, because you don't want to pop a tendon. It's extremely difficult on your fingers. But once you know you're doing it 100 pounds or so on a bar, it's not going to get too much more useful to keep adding weight. So I started making the edges smaller. And so now I've started adding weight on this, and it's definitely a 2-in-1. So I feel my big muscles working and my tiny finger muscles working harder than ever. If you're anything like me, sometimes you're really short on time and you want to get 2 workouts for the price of one. Is that how it works? So I'm going to go over a couple exercises where you can improve your pull power but also work on your abs. So the main one is the Lsit pull-up. So again, shoulders engaged. Bring your legs out in front of you, and then you pull up. So that works your abs and your arms. If that's easy for you, feel free to add some lightweight ankle weights, 2 to 5 pounds, to increase the difficulty. And if you're not quite there yet, there are some progression exercises you can work on. So if the Lsit's hard, you can try the tuck position and then do something like that. If the tuck position with both legs up is difficult, then just try one at a time. So I'll bring one leg up, and then you can bring the other leg up. And the nice thing about the Lsits, the tucks, there's no reason why you can't do them, in the wide grip or the chin-up grip. So once you kind of have these basic skills, you can mix and match them to create really unique and fun and difficult workouts. One last exercise out here. So I am a very static climber and I'm trying to learn to be more dynamic. So this is kind of less of a pull exercise than learn to be a dynamic exercise, but it includes some pull power, so I thought I'd share it with you. It's called jump and catch. So you pretty much jump to the bar. You can practice that first. And then you can jump and catch and then pull up, and you want to try to make it even a more smooth, fluid transition than I did there. And you can also do it with one arm each. So you jump and then you pull up. So you're probably thinking, well, isn't that a one arm pull up? Technically, you're supposed to be using the momentum you get from your legs to jump up and pull yourself through to help out. I'm still working on being dynamic and making all these motions fluid, but that's the general idea. And then there's also one with lock offs. So it's the same thing, you jump, catch, lock off. Do the same thing with the other side. You can even probably do it with 2 hands too. As you get better with jumping and using your legs for momentum, you'll notice that when you do your lock off, you might first time catch it like here. And then the second time you might catch it here. And ideally you kind of want to be up real high because then you're using all your momentum to get up at a good point. So I hope you enjoyed this clinic on pull-ups and increasing your pull power, and I'm looking forward to the questions you guys have at the end or throughout this. And since all of these exercises are really tough on our rotator cuffs, I just wanted to share some of my favorite rehab exercises. So in case you try one of these and you tweak something, I want to give you tools to be able to rehab it, to stay strong and keep training. So my favorite thing is the I, Ys, and Ts. I mentioned the Ys earlier during the wide pull-up, and it's the same thing from like the Y, MCA, but it's I, Y, and T. You can use, I love this because you can use weights, you can use bands, you can just use your body weight to do this exercise, and you can do it in different positions. So you can be prone, or you can be supine, or on your back, or leaning forward, or standing straight up. It's a very, very useful exercise that you can do it in different ways. You can also do it in the rings, and it becomes a crazy, crazy ab workout. So I have a band here, but pretty much I'm just going to use one arm, and I'm going to make an I, a Y, and a T. And then you do it with the other side. And let's say I had some weights. I could go like this and go I, Y, T's. And if I was on a bench, I can lay on my back and do the same thing. It'll be more like an I, Y, T, but laying flat on the bench. And if you're in the rings, same thing, hands in the rings, I's, Y's, T's. So do that, a couple times a week, even if you're not injured, so that you can keep these strong and you can keep pulling. Thank you for joining.
That was awesome. Thank you, Favia.
Glad you enjoyed it.
I loved all the cat, or I guess the cat cameos, but I love all your animals, but
I try to incorporate them. They're good weights, from like 8 pounds to 15 pounds. So depending on what I'm feeling.
Yeah. That's a big cat. 18 pounds?
Oh no, 15 pounds.
Okay. Well, yeah.
We did have an 18-pound cat, but we put her on a diet.
That's probably for the best. Well, wonderful. This is your time to share any other information that you'd like. I know we have some questions too online that I can ask, and then just anyone else. I know, April, you've been on a couple of these clinics and you've been asking some great questions too.
Hi, Favia.
Hi. Now let's start with questions.
Perfect. Well, I have a couple that came through Instagram. One was, how are all the animals doing? I think you're quite famous as well as your animals.
They're all doing well. Our cancer cat, actually, here's Snippy.
Oh.
Without the one eye, he's doing well. And then our blind cat with no eyes knows the house really great. And so you would never know he's blind, and he hunts flies for us. Like, he's just, he's so cute.
crazy. You think he just feels the vibrations or something and can.
Yeah, like he loves to hunt, and I love to watch him hunt because sometimes they just go like a left and he goes right and it's totally wrong, but then sometimes he catches them.
That's amazing. Animals are amazing. All-time favorite pre-climbing warm-up.
Ooh, okay. I mean, I generally start with the IYs and Ts because they're just good to get my shoulders going. I like to do the shoulder shrugs as well, like on a bar or on holes. Because for me, getting my shoulders warmed up is ultra important because I've just torn them so many times that I don't want to do that. And then recently, I started doing the IYs and Ts in a more advanced form. I can actually go out to my garage, but you're in the rings and you kind of do the IYs and Ts like in the ring. So you're like pushing out to make an I and out to make a Y and out to make a T. And it also works your abs because you're on your feet. And so that one is a whole body. You don't do too many because you'll get tired, but it's a whole body workout to get you ready to get on the wall.
I have to try that. It sounds a little tired. I don't know if I'd be able
It's
to
so tiring. But basically, IYs and Ts in whatever form you want to do can get you ready to jump on the wall.
So, I have a couple more. If anyone else wants to hop in with their questions too. Oh, it does look like we have one in the chat. Do you have recommendations on adjustments for someone who is 50 versus 30?
Yeah, I would say if you're, 50 versus, someone starting, it kind of depends on how, like if you're 50 just starting to exercise versus 50 and you've been an athlete your whole life. But assuming, let's say you're starting at 50 and you've never 50 in shape, got it. Then not too much different. And so in recommendations on like adjustments for warming up or for doing these power pulls, I guess I should want to clarify. Either one. Okay, so for the warm-ups, not so much. Same thing goes for everyone. Also, like, let's see how the camera works. I like to make sure my forearms are, ready to go. Because a lot of finger tightness is from your forearms being too tight. And it's not really your fingers. So if you need to make sure that your flexors and your extensors, so both sides of your forearms are ready to go. But I would have recommendations for when you're doing the power pulls. I would be wary of trying to do the muscle ups and the power pull movements because they're really kind of violent on your muscles, and I wouldn't want you to tear anything. And so I would do ones that are more static, like the lock offs and regular pull-ups. And I would be wary of using a lot of weight while you're doing the pull-ups, and make sure that the weight is well distributed throughout your body.
Wonderful. So I feel like you yourself are an amazing training resource. But what have you found helpful, especially when you started your climbing journey? What resources or pages or books did you find most helpful?
I wonder. That's a very good question. There is this book that was in German. So I actually couldn't read it, but I could see the pictures.
Okay.
I think it's called like Klettern, like Klettern. But it actually had wonderful exercises. And so I did that one. But I also read the Rock Climbing Training Manual, that one. And that was how, when I first started getting into trying training, they kind of help you set up how to make a calendar and a schedule and what to put on your various days. But this was probably like 7 years ago when I started doing that. So now I feel like the whole training world has exploded where, you can go to YouTube or Lattice training. I currently use Lattice for my training, and they have great videos on YouTube. There's this one girl on Instagram. I'll have to look it up. I can type it in here. But she does great videos. And actually, I follow her videos to learn how to dyno. And she does videos for like weightlifting, and it's all kind of geared toward women as well, which is nice. She does lifting, finger exercises, recovery. So let me see. Her name is Cirrus Tan. I can type it in here. This is her real name. But that's not her Instagram name. But she's a great resource. And then of course, just like on YouTube, you can find Lattice. But that German climbing book, if I can find the name, I'll post it on like my Instagram story. That one had great exercises for how to incorporate ab workouts into your actual climbing. So you can do, I'm all about doing 2 for 1. So you can have fun climbing, but you're also working out your other muscles.
Definitely. Yes, if you find that book, post it for Joe, and we'll know that you posted it for us. Let's see. Top 5 items you can't climb without.
This is, I mean, my climbing shoes, my Solution comps. Those are like my favorite. My chalk, so that's 2. Chalk cartel. So that's 3 things. I mean, well then, like, I mean, got my crash pad.
Like those are the staples.
Maybe like non-essential like things.
Okay, so non-essential things. Number 1 are earbuds.
Oh.
Where's it go? Here's the camera. They are so essential that I actually have 3 sets of these wireless Bluetooth ones in my climbing bag. So if I didn't charge one, I have 2 more backups. Or if one falls out of my ear, I have 2 more. Because I'm really sensitive to bug noises. I've actually like slammed my face, like been bleeding from the head, bleeding from the lip, like because I freak out on the wall when I hear the noise. I don't let go, so I'm still on there. But I use these, it's kind of a safety measure because now if I don't hear them, I don't have my panic attack on the wall. So that's probably number 1. Number 2 would be Soylent. I like that as like a full meal replacement. But I guess number 3 would be my dog. My dog who is right there sleeping.
Oh.
And then number 4, probably some sort of meat. I really like meat. Not like jerky meat because it often has like nitrates and things that I'm trying to avoid. But just like in the morning, I'll wake up to, today I cooked tofu. Like I went climbing this morning and I just cooked some tofu and put it in a bag and then I could eat it while I climbed. And then number 5, ooh, I don't know. Probably just a nice jacket. Nothing too exciting. Oh, food. So for liquids, I really love Fizzy Vantage Endure X. You know, I wasn't one. I never really took supplements. I just thought like I could get it mostly just, you know, from the food I was eating. But this is kind of like a mixture of beet and watermelon. So I don't even know if it really counts as a supplement. It's just ground beet extract and watermelon extract, and it tastes delicious. And I've noticed that it lets me actually climb for longer. Like it gives me more energy, like it says in the bottle. Like I was like, yeah, right. But yeah, right, it does. And I mix it in with collagen from Fizzy Vantage as well. And the combination of that has actually, I don't know if it's a placebo effect, but I actually feel my fingers being stronger. Like cramps that felt hard a month ago that I've been using this collagen every day for over like 6 weeks now, they don't feel hard anymore. So those are probably two things that I have added to my diet. But then for food, I'm on a very high protein diet. I eat pounds and pounds of chicken every week. Or my husband doesn't digest beans that well. So like before I met him, I ate a very high bean diet because it was low cost, high protein. But now we've kind of shifted to chicken. And so that is pretty much what my diet is made up of. Pounds of chicken, spinach, and sweet potatoes.
Very nice. I feel like there's a lot you can do with those too.
Yeah. Pretty plain. So we actually eat the spinach out of like raw spinach out of the box.
And then we just eat the sweet potato. We heat it up in the microwave and we just eat it with a spoon. But you can definitely make them more tasty than what we do with it.
Sounds really convenient though.
It is. It's fast.
Good,
It's
quick.
like fast food. That's not, fast food, processed.
I feel like this kind of goes into another question I have of just how do you juggle it all? So you climb very hard, and I don't know if everyone realizes just your career as well. So you're doing a lot, on the rock and off of the rock. So just how do you have time for both and to train and do everything that you do?
It's very tiring. My general day goes from like 7 until 11 or 7 to 11:30 or so. My work days are between 10 and 14-hour day long. I'm in fellowship right now, so pretty much the whole way it goes is med school and then residency and then fellowship. So I've been practicing medicine now for my 5th year, but every year gets harder. So fellowship hours are really, really tough and very demanding. But after that, I pretty much go straight to training. Well, I eat a meal. I always eat a meal beforehand, and then I do the training. I have, y'all have literally seen my home. So on longer work days, I try to plan it so that I'm doing a hangboard workout at home, so I don't have to go to the gym. Then when I have shorter work days, that's when I go to the gym. And now I've actually adjusted where, I go outside climbing after work and I just arrive at home at like 11 o'clock. And then when I get home at 11, I do my pull-ups and my abs. So then that's how it goes to like 11:30. And then I go to bed and then I start all over again. So it's pretty much just like when I get home, I'm tired, but I'm like, I have to get in the reps. Like I don't leave a choice for myself. And I've sacrificed a lot of things I find fun. Like I don't get to do video games anymore. I don't go out to eat with friends. I don't go to the movies. Like my life is pretty much like go to work and then I train. And if I want to hang out, like it has to be at the crag because that's all I have time for. So that's pretty much how I juggle it. It's just sacrificing other fun things and then just saying that I make sure I get enough sleep. So, because training too much and not sleeping enough, then your training is pointless. So I try to make sure I get a minimum of 8 hours every night, but I work like 2 miles from my house. So I leave here at 8 o'clock and I get to work at 8:04, and it's just like nobody really knows. And you should see my Google Calendar. It's really packed to the brim. Because in all of that, also to maintain the body, this hard training schedule, is a lot of upkeep. So I have to go to chiropractors and acupuncturists, and I have to do that every week. And so I'm just very firm at work. I'm like, I need sick time. Every week I'm taking sick time to go take care of myself.
That's amazing. And how do you deal with burnout? Or is that even a thing?
I was going to ask that too.
So for me, burnout it happened once. And because once it happened that one time, I've actually learned a lot from that one experience. It was actually 2 years ago at my very first photo shoot, and they wanted me to do sport climbing, and I'm a boulderer. And I needed to, and it was they wanted me to be on these very long 17 clip 12 C's, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not in shape for this. So I had about, I don't know, a month warning or so, and I just did sport climbing all day every day. Every time I went to the gym outside, it was just trying to get on 12s and just leading, and I was very unhappy. It was miserable. And I went to the photo shoot. I mean, I performed pretty well. I got up everything. It was wonderful pictures. People could kind of tell, people were like, who is that girl? Why is she wearing solutions on the slab climb? And then I wasn't very confident in my ability to make anchors and come down. And luckily there was actually someone free soloing once. And I was like, excuse me. Can you check this? And they're like, what was your plan if I wasn't here? I was like, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Like I've done it many times, but like I prefer to have someone check it since you're here. And so like all of that was very stressful. So when I came back, I actually like went to the gym and I refused to climb. Like I said, no, not climbing. They're like, not even gonna warm up. I was like, nope. And then like I tried to go back to the gym again. And I was like, no, I don't want to climb. And there was like a whole week. And I told my husband, I'm like, my climbing career might be over. But then one of my friends like dragged me outside, and I got on my warm up. It's this like this V2, and I fell. And I was like, "See, I can't climb." And she's like, "Get up that rock. You're gonna do it." Then I did it, and I found the joy. So the lessons I learned from that is that now I no longer, no matter what goal I have, I don't jump into it like 100%. Like if they're asking you to climb 512s, like either say like that's out of your range, is there something else you can do, or like when you're practicing, just do a bunch of 510s and get comfortable with being on a rope and comfortable leading, because I was trying to figure out being comfortable leading, comfortable on a rope, all on harder grades. And now I no longer do that. And so like I have, you know, like some goals, long-term goals to do better on sport. And right now it's just like I'm just in the gym leading 510s and 511s. And my friends are like, that looked easy for you. Why don't you do something harder? I'm like, no. Like I want to only have fun here. So I think that's the thing, like making sure whatever training you do, like you find it fun and not miserable, and you're not just doing it because you think you have to do it. Like I find all those pull-up things fun. Like I think it's great. But now I'm just very careful, like, is that thing gonna be fun for me to do for like many days in a row? And if it's not, I don't do it anymore. That's just it.
I feel like that's easier said than done, but with climbing, it's so easy to find something that's fun about it because there's just so many different aspects. So I think that's really good.
It is. I mean, like I had it on the hard way, and after that feeling of never wanting to climb again, I was like, me climbing that 512 today is not worth not wanting to climb ever again. And so it is very hard because like I can't, like the competitive person inside me is like, yeah, jump on it, you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, you learned.
Oh man. Well, those are my questions that came in through Instagram. Does anyone else have any other questions? April, did I see you move to ask a question?
I was going to ask you, how's the dynamic movement training going? I keep seeing your progress on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited.
It's actually fantastic. Having a climbing counselor is one of the best decisions I've ever accidentally made. I've actually in the past have tried to use like hypnotherapy to try to overcome this, and like it didn't work. But this counseling, we meet like once or twice a week, and I mean there's a V12 dyno that like I'm this close to now. Like I'm doing like not dynoing to doing like hard dynos. The counseling has made wonders. So it's going great. I've been working on it for over 8 months now. Like when I go to the gym, every workout pretty much, like even when I'm doing circuits, the circuits are dyno circuits. Like everything I'm doing is focused on just getting that dynamic movement down. And so I was worried after like 6 months, but I saw no progress. I was like, oh no, like have I just wasted 6 months? But like as of about like 3 weeks ago, I can actually like I felt different before 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get this, but I was still failing at them. Like on the outside, I look the same, but on the inside, I felt different. Now on the outside now reflects the inside, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say like if there's something you want to work at, just keep at it. And put all like, so I've ignored a lot of other deficits. Like I can't do slopers. Like right now, like fall off all the slopers. But right now, like I'm like, ooh, I can jump to something. So being dedicated and just like having faith that your 6 months, a year of just focusing on that skill will pay off. Because like for me, it 100% has. And I'm like, it's like, it makes my day. Like when I'm down at work, I like pull up that video. I'm like, look at that dyno I did.
Nice. And so did you feel like it was more of like a mindset thing that was holding you back from doing that? Not so much like the physicality of it?
Right. It was because like if you can do muscle ups and power pulls, like that's like the same motion.
Yeah.
And so it was clear that it was a mental barrier, and it was a combination. Like I just legit didn't understand. Like I would ask my friend, like, how did you do that dyno? And I would show her. She's like, well, you didn't bend your legs. Like, how are you gonna straight leg dyno? I'm like, oh, oh, you bend your legs to dyno? And so like there's been like things like that, like just the basic mechanics I honestly like didn't know. And then after I kind of figured some of that out, there was just like a baseline fear where I wasn't saying I'm afraid, but evidently I was afraid. And so we worked through that by having power spots. So like actually having someone, take some weight off and I would do it. And then they would just like touch me but take no weight off, and then I would do it. And then I thought, oh, I could do it, and then I would just fall right off. So then he actually stood really close, so like no touching, but I could like feel the breath and feel the energy. And then suddenly I could do it, and we're like, see, like it was never the actual power, it was just the safeness of that person being near me, like let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
It changed it. So then we just had him like staying further and further apart.
Nice.
But I mean, I got to that point because I started my dyno training was partially mentally, but I mean, I started doing the power pulls and the muscle ups just so I can learn to be dynamic. But that part just came a lot faster than the mental aspect. So I started working on both of those at the same time, but the physical part just came like in 2 months.
Yeah.
Whereas the mental part, I mean, like I'm still like 8 months in, and I'm still like, I need my I call it my Dave blanket. That's the name of my counselor, Dave. He probably finds it very inappropriate.
Nice.
I'm like, I need a Dave blanket, please.
Nice. Oh, I love it.
So yeah, it's going wonderfully. I'm really happy. And if anyone, like, I think if you're worried, like failing at some like technique, a mental block, like finding, I know it's hard, but a counselor in sports, if they have any climbing thing, it makes a big, big difference. Highly recommend it. Even more than eating pounds of meat.
Love it.
All right, we've got about 1 minute left. Any last shreds of wisdom you want to leave us?
No, just make sure you're having fun while training, so that way you can stick at it. And just hit me up if you have any more questions, anyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. And join us for the COVID panel. Favia is leading that up as well, which should be shortly. Oh, who's that?
That's Nigel.
Oh, that's a good name. Hey, Nigel.
All the cats.
Bye.
Bye, Favia.
Thank you so much.